Hello, friends, and welcome back to Stories About Entitled People. Next up, we've got a classic case of be careful what you wish for. Our OP is a dedicated camp counselor who goes above and beyond, taking on all the tough jobs, including the one task no one else wanted, disciplining the kids. But before we begin, best way to support our channel is to leave comments, like, and subscribe with a turned-on bell so you don't miss the new video every single day. Here we go. Coworker complained about my discipline, so I let her handle it all by herself. In college, I worked at a day camp one summer on campus. I had 4 coworkers and 3 supervisors, 2 of whom we worked with regularly. I generally volunteered for the crap jobs to make it easier on my coworkers, so I'd drag a cooler across campus and back to get ice every morning. I'd pair up with the really awful supervisor so the others wouldn't have to. I'd be the first one there for check-in, then stay well after everyone left to clean the rooms and replace the plastic covers on the tables and more. But most importantly, I was the disciplinarian. Anytime a kid needed a stern talking to or punishment, the worst punishment we ever gave was to take away 5 minutes of their 1-hour swim time. I was the one to do it. 3 of the other counselors told me how much they appreciated it because they hated doing it and it interrupted their positive relationships with the kids. The 4th counselor, Claire, would even sometimes use my name to get kids in line. I'd be working in the rooms when they came back from an activity, screaming and hollering. Then I'd hear her say, "I see Mr. OP in there, and I know he doesn't want to hear your outside voices in a hall." That'd usually make him calm down. One day, I took away 5 minutes of a girl's swim time. If I'd known how it would affect her, I never would have done it. At pickup that day, her mother came up and asked why her daughter's crying. Claire just took her to the side, and I didn't think any more of it. About an hour later, I'm in the building alone, cleaning and replacing the damaged table covers. Claire comes in with her dinner, making such a big mess that I ended up having to replace that cover as well. She informs me of what happened. The girl was distraught over losing that pool time because she thought she was going to get in a lot of trouble at home for it. If I'd known this was the situation, I would have apologized in person and given the mother my supervisor's contact info if she still wanted to complain. Instead, Claire told the mother what a crappy counselor I was, that I existed basically only to punish the kids, and that she needed to contact my supervisor to file a formal complaint. Claire continued telling me repeatedly for about 40 minutes how I was so awful. Luckily, the mother called my good supervisor, Jessica, so Jessica told me what had happened and explained that she had calmed the mother down over what was honestly a minor incident. But she was still forced to give me a verbal reprimand, and it was the greatest, though possibly only, I'm not sure, reprimand I've ever gotten. She basically just told me to stop disciplining the kids. So from that day on through the end of summer, I paired up with Claire at every opportunity. I'd spend my days hot gluing stuff and helping the kids assemble crafts. I'd pitch in with design ideas if a kid was having trouble and escort them to the bathroom. I did everything except discipline them, no matter how out of hand they got. And when she'd give me the look of, "Help me out here," as she tried to yell over top of 20-plus screaming children, I'd just give her a sly smile and turn my attention back to the glue gun. By the end of camp, she looked like she was just short of a breakdown every day. She didn't come when we all went out for a beer on the last day. I think she even left school, maybe realizing that she wasn't cut out to be a teacher. Not 100% sure about that last part, though. Edit. I get that I sound like I'm just glorifying myself. I'm not. I have to leave out some details to make it a little less easy to identify myself, my coworkers, the school, the camp, etc. Suffice to say that my specialty in this camp was not best suited for the classrooms, so when the kids were in class, I left the specialized work to the better specialized counselors, hence taking on the crap jobs to make the other jobs easier. As to why the parent and child both got so upset, I can only speculate, but the current theory is that the mother expected nothing short of perfection, the daughter was obsessed with doing everything exactly right, and to the extent that attitude was, I feel like it didn't come naturally, especially not for a 7-year-old. Meanwhile, the mother can't accept that the child did something wrong, so it must be someone else's fault. I should have said, while I was present, I was the disciplinarian. If I was not in the room or even in the room but busy with something else, Jessica and the 3 other counselors handled any situations with no problem. Claire and my bad supervisor, we'll call her Frumpus, couldn't keep the kids in line, though. The only thing they always left me to do was yell over the kids if they were way too out of hand, and things like turning the lights on and off had no effect. I had a booming voice when I wanted, so yelling, "Quiet," silenced them immediately. Sounds like you were a good worker, and Claire sounds like a crappy person, not only for throwing you under the bus to the parent, but for going after you to your face when you were only helping her. Sometimes the best revenge isn't confrontation, it's simply stepping back and letting the person realize how crucial you actually were. And our second story. No sitter? No problem. How bringing my kids led to the best outcome possible. Several years ago, in the wake of separating from my ex-husband, I applied for temporary assistance for needy families, or TANF, which provides $300 or so a month for a certain number of months to those who qualify. I was also applying for SNAP benefits, WIC, and child care assistance, which has a 6-month waiting list. Now, my ex-husband was a real piece of work. He went to prison almost immediately after I left. We have 3 kids together, ages 6, 4, and 2. I was a stay-at-home mom until this point. When I applied to the assistance programs in my area, the TANF required me to go into the workforce center and apply for jobs there. They made me an appointment, and I went in with my 3 kids, filed some paperwork, and they asked me to come in the next day for around 3 hours to take some aptitude tests on the computer. Me, 3 hours tomorrow? I won't be able to get a sitter this short notice. Them, well, figure it out because you can't get TANF without doing this. Me, okay. The next day I show up on time with my 3 kids. I sign in and sit in the waiting area. A lady comes in from another part of the building to get me. She calls my name, I raise my hand and start to gather my children to proceed with her. She takes one look at us and says, "You can't have your kids here. You have to sit here and take these tests." Me, "I told y'all I didn't have a sitter, but they said, oh, well, you have to be here, so I'm here." Lady, "Okay, no, come with me. We're getting your child care assistance right now. Do you have a facility in mind with open spots?" Me, "I think so, but I'll need to call and verify that." Lady, "Do that right now while I start your paperwork." So I call the daycare, verify the spots, and they offered me a job in the infant room. She had me come back the next day after I dropped the kids off at daycare to do the testing, even though I had already gotten a job, and she sped along all of the applications for assistance. That woman was a godsend during a very trying time in my life. I absolutely love when bureaucracy backfires in the best way possible. They give you the runaround expecting you'd magically solve an impossible situation, but you flipped the script perfectly. Honestly, kudos to the woman who saw your struggle and stepped up immediately. She wasn't having any of that nonsense either, and instead of adding to your stress, she made things happen fast. People like that are the unsung heroes in these systems. And our last story. Angry neighbor claims our tree, ends up losing her own land instead. When we first started looking for our dream home, we never imagined it would come with built-in neighborhood drama. On a sunny afternoon, as we stood admiring a charming house with a lush garden, we were suddenly ambushed by an elderly woman from next door. She shuffled toward us, her eyes blazing with anger, pointing a shaking finger towards a newly erected wooden fence between the houses. "That fence," she shouted, startling us both. "It's way too close to my property. If you buy this house, I swear you'll have to take it down." We exchanged puzzled glances, utterly disinterested in her feud with the previous owners. The house was lovely, and a cranky neighbor wasn't enough to deter us from what we saw as our perfect future home, so we moved forward and happily bought the house. For the first few weeks, the old woman stayed quiet, occasionally glaring at us through her lace curtains, but saying nothing. We started to believe her earlier outburst was simply a one-off incident. Unfortunately, we were wrong. The peace shattered one sunny morning when we awoke to the loud buzzing of a chainsaw. Rushing outside, we saw our neighbor busily hacking away at the limbs of a beautiful fruit tree in our yard, right at the boundary. Furious, we confronted her. "What on earth are you doing to our tree?" I demanded. She stood defiant, chainsaw still in hand. "Your tree's a nuisance. Rotten fruit keeps dropping onto my lawn. I'm tired of cleaning it up." "You can't just destroy our tree because it annoys you," my partner shot back. "It's my tree," she retorted stubbornly. The fence is mine, and since the tree is close to it, it's on my side of the property line." Feeling the tension escalate, we called in a professional arborist who confirmed our worst fears. The aggressive trimming had killed our beloved tree. Furious, we decided to sue her to replace the lost tree. During court proceedings, our neighbor confidently claimed the tree was hers based on the fence's placement, a boundary she insisted was clearly defined. To counter her claim, we hired a professional land surveyor to provide an official assessment of our property lines. We were in for a pleasant shock. Previously, the old lady having confidently informed us the property line was directly aligned with our house, a so-called zero lot on our side. However, the surveyor revealed the truth. The zero lot was actually on her side, granting us an additional 3 feet of land she had illegally claimed as her garden for decades. With this newfound information, the court ruled in our favor. She was forced to pay the state-assessed value for our destroyed tree, an amount that conveniently matched the cost of erecting a sturdy, attractive fence. We took this as an opportunity to build our fence precisely 18 inches from her house, the closest permitted by law. Predictably, our neighbor exploded when she saw the new fence. "This is outrageous! You can't box me in like this!" she hollered from her yard. "Funny," my partner called back calmly, leaning against our lovely new fence. "We thought you loved clearly defined boundaries." The old lady stormed inside, slamming her door. Days later, we received notice she'd begun proceedings against us to reclaim a mere 22 inches of land. Unfortunately for her, the matter was already settled legally. Eventually, our stubborn neighbor gave up the fight, choosing instead to avoid contact altogether, leaving us finally to enjoy our home and our precisely defined boundaries in peace. She was so obsessed with controlling the property line, she literally argued herself out of land she'd been using for decades. It's almost poetic. Also, let us take a moment to appreciate the delicious irony of her own logic coming back to bite her. She wanted strict property lines? Congrats, lady. Enjoy your new claustrophobic setup. Hey guys, thank you all for watching the video. I'll see you in the next one.